Hi guys, welcome back to another episode of Let's Chat GP, the podcast where we share everything about life in Grande Prairie, Alberta. If you guys are seeing my face for the first time, I'm your host Demar, a Jamaican immigrant who moved to this beautiful city a couple of years ago with my family called Grande Prairie, Alberta. This podcast is brought to you with the kind support of TELUS STORYHIVE, and we enjoy sharing stories about life in Grande Prairie in general. So if you are thinking of moving to Grande Prairie, or if you have recently moved to Grande Prairie, you will have a factual expectations. A lot of times we have reality versus expectations, and they don't often connect. So this podcast was started so that you can have a realistic expectation. Today, we're joined by Mariah Braun. Did I get it right?
Yeah, you got it. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, Mariah is a business owner in the city of Grande Prairie, a lifelong resident. They're far and few in between. So we're so happy that Mariah decided to spend a part of her day with us, sharing her experience about life in Grande Prairie, Alberta. Title of today's episode is The Truth About Living in Grande Prairie, Alberta. Mariah, welcome. How are you doing today?
Thank you. Good. Yeah, I'm called a GP unicorn, Grande Prairie unicorn. Okay.
Where did that name come from, the unicorn?
I think it's just one of those things that the community has kind of come up with because we do live in such a transient city that it's really rare that people are born and raised in Grande Prairie.
Okay, so give me a little bit of a background about yourself. I know we mentioned that you are a lifelong resident, but family growing up, what was that like? Just a little bit of a background.
Well, my family came from Guyana to Toronto, then to Grande Prairie in the 80s. I was born in the 90s. I'll just date myself there a little bit. But, and yeah, born and raised in Grande Prairie, the old hospital that's there that they had an HBO shot at recently. And yeah, what was growing up like? Well, there wasn't as many, diversity, I would say.
Black people, it's okay. We can
Yeah,
say.
black people, yeah. So I would say, like, out of a large school, like, I would see maybe, like, a few black people. So that was, I guess, different, but I never really honed into it because, my friends, my family were all very supportive and those kind of things. But it was just kind of like a natural thing. I didn't really know any different. And growing up here, there wasn't as much of the Caribbean culture adopted here. I did primarily kind of adopt the Canadian culture as a whole.
Well, let me ask you this, though. I know you mentioned that growing up, you didn't really feel different because this is your culture, as you mentioned, this is all you know. But growing up, being one of few black persons in your school, in your class at that time, did that make you feel any way different or separated from the masses? Or what was that experience growing up as a kid?
Not really. I mean, visually, you know that there is a difference. But like I said, I had friends. I was integrated into the culture, and there was really no difference to me. Obviously, there are some times that do happen where people say some rude things, but I think that's everywhere. You'll
not
run
just
into
Grande
that.
Prairie. That's 100% correct. So you have spent most of your life here, matriculated from a child, teen, now into adulthood. What would you say are some of the biggest changes that you have personally witnessed over the course of time?
Yeah, well, for one, when I was growing up, there was nothing past what's now NWP, the Polytechnic that's here.
Yeah.
So imagine like everything from, Walmart on just being
Now,
a field.
careful, because that doesn't only make you seem as a unicorn, but also a dinosaur.
Right?
In the sense
I know.
Everything, you seem like that's a long time ago, but really it's not that far away.
Yeah, no. It wasn't that long ago, and we did grow as a city, right? So people in the 80s came here, immigrants, people in the 90s, 2000s, and we really grew as a population here in Grande Prairie. And I would say that's the biggest thing is just the size of our city has just
Has
exploded.
grown and diversity as well.
Yeah, like going to different events, local events these days, I really see the difference. I'm
Yeah?
just like, wow, this is incredible. Look at how many different people there are. And
So what do you
yeah.
think, like, what period of time, like, I know you mentioned in the 90s and the 2000s, but what period of time do you really start noticing that influx of people coming towards Grande Prairie?
That's a tough one. I just feel like
Like
since
you
I
just
was
got
a
up one
child.
morning and then everything was
Yeah.
like
It's so hard, I guess, when you're the perspective of like a youth compared to an adult. But like I would probably say when I was growing up, I probably saw the most growth in our city. And then as an adult, you just have a different perspective, right? Of course, we had that little kind of downturn in 2015-ish where oil crashed and stuff like that. But ever since, like we're still on the up.
What's the main thing, like, you think that brings people to Grande Prairie that causes the population to grow so drastically over the course of time?
I think it's just pure opportunity. There's jobs here. Things are growing. They're being developed, which means it requires more people to have jobs here. Compared to a larger city, there's a lot less competition for jobs. So you come here, you have an affordable place that you can live in versus like a Vancouver or Toronto. And you can actually get ahead because you actually have the wage and the affordability to make it work.
I think I would agree with you for that reason, for sure. Myself, particularly, when I was thinking of moving to Grande Prairie, there wasn't much information out there about
Yeah.
Grande Prairie. So it's one of those places that you either know about it or you don't know about it. What do you think makes Grande Prairie stands out for somebody looking on, not in Grande Prairie, but like looking on? What's that one thing you think stands out or make Grande Prairie stands out apart from opportunity?
I really think that there's like if you love the outdoor lifestyle, like hiking, hunting, fishing, you've got mountains like an hour and a half in the west direction.
Yeah.
Going south, go even further south, and you'll get to Jasper. All those great places. I would say that's probably one that stands out. And you've got the amenities like a larger city. Before, we'd have to always kind of travel to Edmonton and those kind of things to maybe do some shopping.
Yeah.
Now you've got those amenities here, and you have to make those trips less frequently. Maybe for healthcare, unfortunately, I do wish that would improve. But shopping and those amenities, I think there's enough here to kind of get you by on what you need.
Do you see Grande Prairie getting to that level in the future to like probably a larger city like an Edmonton or a Calgary anytime in the near or distant future?
Not really. I think that's also the appeal of Grande Prairie is that it's not a larger center like that. I know the province estimates that Red Deer is the next place. I'm not sure why Red Deer would be the place, but we're certainly going to grow here. Doesn't mean we're going to be a million plus population anytime soon, in my opinion. We're sitting around that 70,000 or so right now. So that's quite a leap, right?
And I think really and truly the city prides itself in being that small, mid-sized city, but with big city appeal.
Yeah.
So you have the amenities, but you still have the comforts and coziness of like a small, mid-sized city. So I think that's a part of the appeal. But let's talk about you as an individual a little bit. You are an entrepreneur. You are in the creative space.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? Were you always like just wanting to do it or what?
Well, my grandma and my mom both had kind of like this creative flair to them. My grandma is a lot more like into the crafts, making like handmade cards and those kind of things. Whereas my mom was into photography when we were younger, and she would like set up this backdrop in our house and like take photos of us, and she'd like let me play around with the cameras, give me the disposable stuff, and I just always took an interest into creativity and the arts. I tried going to college for art school, kind of like dipped out of that because I thought, well, how am I going to make a career path out of this? And so I tried to find the way through to the creativity through business, and it brought me to the marketing field. And so I've always kind of just leaned into that creativity because of the influences around me.
So, Grande Prairie as a city, do you think there is a lot of success for creatives in the city of Grande Prairie? What's your thoughts on that?
I think there's a misconception that you can't have a creative career here. And I recently started a podcast all about that. And I think there are a lot of successful creatives here. We've got like a crazy good opera singer here. We've got people who have been to like Berkeley College and they're doing music production here. There's a lot of successful creatives. I just think we're a little bit hidden. We're a hidden gem for that kind of stuff. And, after the pandemic, I really think that the landscape has changed in terms of creativity. You don't have to move to a big city. You can have a creative career here. There are ways that you can do all of this online.
Yeah.
Certainly in the bigger cities, there are more access to programs that would maybe help you accelerate your skills and get exposure to those things. But I think you can be successful here, and there are a lot of creatives successful here.
And I think you are a testament to just that resilience and to show that once you decide to do something, it's possible. It doesn't matter where in the world you are. And myself, as I'd call myself a budding creative, as somebody who is dabbling in the field a little bit.
Serious? Come on.
I am serious.
You are creative.
Right, I must tip my invisible hats off to you to say, hey, you know what, you're doing it, and you're an innovator. You're doing it in a space where you're the first to do a lot of the things that you're doing. So, tip my invisible hats off to you, and hopefully in the future, it can be a catalyst to really drive that creative industry and creative space in the city of Grande Prairie that I think would be fantastic. No more old photos of man riding horses and
sometimes those are, they're classic.
And carriages and all. I mean, it's good from an historic perspective, but we still need to see Grande Prairie from the lens of 2024 or 2025 that we're coming up to, more relevant depiction.
Absolutely, I would agree. Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were I thought you was gonna disagree with me.
That's why I'm doing it, right?
Yeah.
Bringing the big city, because these studios are everywhere in the big cities. Like, this is not a new concept necessarily. It's just new to Grande Prairie, and it just takes somebody to do it. And it's going to help a lot of different creatives expand their career and their skill set and what they have access to it.
Throughout your journey so far, what would you say is your biggest success and your biggest failure?
Ooh. Biggest success would be starting this business. It was a total accident, and it just became a business based on demand and helping people. Biggest failure, well, that's a tough one. I make mistakes every day, and you learn from them and grow from them. And it'd be really hard to say pinpoint one exactly.
Okay, but give me one though. I'm gonna poke the beer. We're not gonna just go over it. We're gonna deep dive a little bit.
Okay.
Give me one.
Sure. It would be possibly maybe at some points just growing a bit faster than I should. Like this space, it's the biggest success and the biggest failure. It's a big risk all at once.
Yeah.
And it means a lot of hard work, especially in the first couple of years.
So I'm happy that you pinpoint one, because my other question is, how do you keep motivated after going through failures? Like, things are not going the way you think it's going to be going. How do you keep motivated to keep going?
Well, I'll be honest, sometimes I don't stay motivated, and sometimes I sit in it, and it's hard to wake up every day, and especially in the creative field, you need to have your mind really into it, and sometimes there isn't the motivation. What does motivate me, though, is seeing people in this space creating awesome content, and knowing that we had a part in that. If this studio wasn't here, if this business didn't exist, we wouldn't have helped 100+ brands. We wouldn't have helped all the creatives this year. So that's what lights the fire again, for sure.
Gotcha. And what would you like to see Grande Prairie look like? Like, from a creative perspective, what would you like to see? What would be the perfect scenario?
I would love to see the creative industry and the people within it just connect and come together and make even more cool creative things. I think we're all in our own little corners, creating our own little content. But I think if we were to come together and collaborate, we could do some really big things here.
Now, let's shift back the focus back to Grande Prairie. Because the whole focus of LetsChat GP is to talk about the city of Grande Prairie, right? Is Grande Prairie a good place to live for, say, not only an immigrant, but anyone who's looking not just for opportunities, but for things to do? And I know you mentioned outdoorsy things like hiking, fishing, swimming. Not swimming, it's too cold. But
Well, maybe.
you know what I mean. Would you consider Grande Prairie a good place to live?
I think so, especially if you're coming from a different country. Just get yourself settled into the Canadian culture. And yes, there are more and more events. You go on, there's many influencers that post on their social media about all the events that are going on. It's impossible to make it to them all. So there is tons of things to do. There's a lot of community groups that are putting things on. I just think the community needs to continue to support those things because otherwise they go away. People say there's nothing to do. Then people put stuff on, and then
no one supports it.
They're not supporting it. They're not buying the tickets
Yeah.
until last minute. Please do not do that. People put so much on the line just to bring these events to you. You've got to support them. You've got to register. You've got to buy those tickets, and don't do it last minute because they have to cancel it. And then when you cancel it,
Then they're gonna say, "Hey, I was
I
thinking
want
of
to do
going. I was
that."
thinking of
Yeah.
going." That's absolutely
you
is
gotta
true.
support it.
Yeah.
And otherwise, because it is a risk for these people to be doing these events.
I can agree with that. And one of the things that I notice about you, Mariah, is that you are very community driven. And because of that community drivenness, if
Yeah.
for lack of a better term,
Yeah.
you are on a lot of boards. Right? You are on the Chamber of Commerce board and a few others. What makes you want to be so involved in the community and like what benefit is there to you?
I think I bring a different perspective. We've got key industries in our region, and I represent something different. I represent the creative industry, in my opinion,
Yeah.
and small business. And so if I can catalyst change through being on one of these boards, making an impact, that's why I do it. Specifically, the Peace Region Independent Media Arts Association, they were actually the one who introduced me to filmmaking and being on a set. So for me, I know that there are people out there that want exposure to that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to join that board. I'm going to pass that on. I'm going to pay it forward to somebody else. And hopefully it grows this industry even bigger.
But how does one become a part of those boards? Is it like you make an application and then you go through a selection committee, or how do one become
Well, for the chamber, you have to be elected.
Okay.
But say for Peace Region Independent Media Arts Association, you can put your name forward, during the AGM, or even just send an email to these organizations because a lot of these nonprofits are struggling right now to find board members.
And what does a board member do?
It depends on the organization. Like the chamber would be governance, not in the nitty gritty operations of the organization. Whereas a smaller one like Prima would be you are kind of doing more of the operations. Maybe you're volunteering to help with the bookkeeping. Maybe you're volunteering to do the social media or the website work, or just to help events happen. And so it just really depends on what kind of organization. You do still have to be elected in, I guess, probably with Prima, but
Yeah.
It's a matter of votes.
Of votes. Gotcha. Now you're a businesswoman. You're a black businesswoman. Let's call it as it is. I'm sure there are challenges that you would face being a black businesswoman in Grande Prairie. Let's just be open. What are some of those challenges?
I guess being the only one in the room, I'd probably say is the biggest challenge. And not that I'm not taken as seriously as the next person. It's just I would like to see more diversity in our business community. I'd like to see black females getting more opportunities. People of different descents getting more opportunities. Just like to see more diversity in the business
I
community.
get that. Do you feel like being a Black businesswoman is an hindrance or a benefit to doing business, or it doesn't matter in Grande Prairie?
I would say neutral. I'm totally neutral on it. I don't think it's hindering me. I don't think it's amplifying me. I mean, there's tons of programs maybe lately with a lot of the DEI principles that are being enacted in different organizations. There might be some of those opportunities, but I wouldn't say it pushes me forward. And just to be clear,
DEI, diversity and inclusion.
Yeah, that's exactly that. And it just means that I can apply for those. It doesn't mean I'm gonna get them.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say being Black hinders me or pushes me forward any.
That's good. And that shows that Grande Prairie has come a far way in terms of the word that we like to use, which is diversity and inclusion. Because when I just moved to Grande Prairie, that was the first time I knew I was Black, if that makes sense. So
it does, actually. I get that because you come from a culture where there's Black people.
I'm from Jamaica, right? Yeah. So in Jamaica, like everyone is looking like you. You don't go in a room and then everyone turns around, like none of that. So when I just got to Grande Prairie, was the first time I actually realized I'm Black. Right? So it is definitely something that we had to get accustomed to. Okay. And I think Grande Prairie has come a long way from when we just got here, which was just not that long ago anyway. It was just like in 2019.
Wow.
I remember my wife and I would go to different restaurants and we'll be the only Black person in the restaurants, and you could just feel the awkwardness, right? So to hear that from a business perspective, it's actually neutral, that makes me feel very good and just makes me want to start a business.
Oh, you should. Come on. What's the next idea, man?
You know what? We have to sit down. We have to talk about that. We have to talk about that and then figure out what's going to be going on. But I definitely love Grande Prairie. And the reason why I love Grande Prairie is because I think Grande Prairie is a community that once you get involved, you'll be successful. Yeah. A lot of times, and we're speaking to like immigrants predominantly because they're the ones who usually exclude themselves and, there's nothing to do, there's no one here, no friends, no nothing. And the truth of the matter is, if you get involved in the community, I think there is so much benefit and so much opportunities that can come from it. And for myself personally, I think this city has blessed me and my family so much that we just want to be ambassadors. We just want to be like, can I get a Grande Prairie tattoo on my face? Not that far. That's but
pretty intense.
Pretty intense, right? But yeah, like I really believe that if a community gives to you, you have to give back to it.
I would agree with you. Yeah. And I feel like that drives a lot of the decision making on my part is trying to give back to this community because it's given me so much, for sure.
Definitely. And sometimes we take and we forget to give back. Yeah. But if everyone is taken, there's nothing going to be left very soon.
It's true. And I think overall that's another thing about Grande Prairie is that it is a very giving community. Like the donations that are raised through many different nonprofits, it's just mind-blowing, to be honest.
Yeah.
How community can come together and do that.
100%. And I've seen that firsthand to the level of like just support that residents give to nonprofits and just to any group or project that's beneficial to the community. But let's shift it up a little bit. We have like probably a couple more minutes. I want to ask you some fun questions, Mariah.
Sure, let's have some
fun.
Right?
You probably heard some of these questions already, but let me see if I can catch you off guard. What type of music would you say is your favorite type of music?
Are you serious?
I am don't like tell me country music.
Okay, everything but country music. How about that?
See, now I'm going to have to end the episode because I love country music.
Are you serious?
I am not even joking. Country music.
To the country station?
I've listened to country music way before coming to Canada, actually.
Really?
And so much that in my social circle back in Jamaica, I was seen as being odd. Like, why are you listening to country music? But funny enough, my wife was the same. She loves country music, and she was the odd one out in her group, too. So when I met her and we found out we love country music, I'm like, will you marry me?
And come to Grande Prairie and do the thing.
But not to take away from your answer, you said anything but country music. So what's your favorite?
My favorite is probably rock. alternative rock. Yeah.
I did not see that. So you're more like a Maroon 5 kind of, or heavy metal, like intense.
I'm leaning more to the metal, like the screamo stuff. Like
Mm.
Alexis on Fire is a favorite, and then on the softer end is like City in Color. Yeah, I like that kind of music. And lately it's been like Spirit Box, which is like really intense.
So let me tell you, I did not see that coming. And the other question I was going to ask is to tell me something about you that people will be surprised about. But I think you did already. But now you're going to have to tell me something else. Something about you that people would be surprised to learn about you.
Yeah, that's a tough one. What would they be surprised at? I did some acting when I was younger.
I'm not surprised about that at all. You're creative. Come on, that's what you're going to do.
I'm usually behind the camera, though. That's the thing.
That's true. So did you like acting?
It was really fun as a kid. We would go to the college theater there, and I was like maybe like a little mouse in a Peter Pan production, stuff like that. So
awesome. Yeah. So I just got like 3 more questions for you, then we're going to call this episode a wrap. If you could spend a day with anyone, dead or alive, who you'd consider your mentor, who would that person be and why?
Ooh, that's a good one. Chris Do. He has an agency himself. I've watched a lot of his YouTube videos. He speaks my language, my creative language. So I'd probably, he's alive, so I'd probably spend the day with him. Yeah.
That's awesome. And what's your purpose in life? What would you consider to be your purpose? That ultimate goal that would make you feel fulfilled?
I think just making the community a better place to live, just somehow. If I impact, one person, like if it's you doing your podcast here, or I think I'm done.
That's it?
I'm winning.
You're retired?
Yeah. Honestly, I'm just leave this place better than what you found it. Right?
That's awesome. That's awesome. And one last thing is, what advice would you give to a younger person or your younger self? If you could go back in time, Mariah is now 15 years old. What advice would you give yourself?
Those scarier spaces that you think you might not belong in, go try and be in those spaces. It's very intimidating at first, but just go and do it. I remember when I first went to my first chamber meeting, like one of the mixers that they had when I was just out of college or just in college, it was very like isolating. I felt like I didn't belong there. Now I'm on the board. So, like stuff like that, where it's like the spaces that you feel so intimidated by, you might have fear going into, just give it a try. And go for it. Just take up the space and be there and push your limits, because every single time that I have done that, I have always found something that drew me into something big later down the road. That's
fantastic. So, Mariah, you mentioned that your family is from Guyana, right? And I know you mentioned also that you're cultured Canadian, but do you resonate with anything from Guyana?
I don't know. Just the fact that it's adopted into the Caribbean culture. And that's something I've been searching for, is to maybe just learn more about the culture. We've got some different groups here now that will give exposure to that. So not really, other than the fact that there is this draw, as I am, Caribbean as well as Canadian.
Because I'm Jamaican. So Jamaican food especially is very important to me. Yeah. Do you know any Guyanese food?
Roti. That's the only thing, because my grandma makes it for me.
Shame on you, Mariah. Shame on you. Shame on you. What about oil dung, that callaloo, none of that? I'm going to have to have words with your grandma.
Jamaican patties. I know those. Are those like Canadianized though? Like
the ones that true fact.
Okay.
So Jamaican patties, like original authentic Jamaican patties, can't leave Jamaica.
Why is that?
Because it has meat in it, and apparently you can't travel with cooked meat or raw meat.
Yeah.
So in order to get real authentic Jamaican patties, you have to be in Jamaica.
Okay.
Now, there are variables of Jamaican patties, like, persons in Canada or wherever choose to like do a recipe, but it's kind of like a knockoff of the original.
Darn.
Yeah.
So I've been tricked and fooled.
You've been tricked and fooled for sure. Absolutely, for sure.
The ones that are Canadianized, they're delicious.
Yeah. But what's your favorite Canadian food, though? Let's ask you that.
Oh. I'm an Albertan girl, so I like me a steak.
Steak and potatoes,
Yeah.
I'm sure. Oh, I gotcha. Is it medium rare, medium well, or well done for your steak?
You didn't even go blue rare.
No.
I used to eat blue rare steak.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
No, you're full of surprises.
I was, true Albertan. I used to eat it like that, but it's a medium rare now for sure. Yeah.
So the first time I tried a medium rare steak, I think you guys forgot to cook this.
Oh, it was too raw for you.
And then I said like, can I get a well? And then I'm like, no, this is too burnt.
Yeah.
So I'm like, can I get a medium well? But then it's too dry.
Yeah.
But then everything else it's just kind of too bloody and
Oh, it's
raw.
so good. It's so good. You got to try it. Just for me, try a blue rare steak one time.
I'll probably add it to my bucket list. I'll take a bite, but I won't be able to complete it for sure.
Okay, I will film it. Yeah.
And again, let me just say, guys, that Mariah is an awesome person and she is indeed a creative, right? So thank you, Mariah, for taking some time out of your very busy schedule to have a chat with us. We really appreciate it. And of course, guys, if you're watching this episode right now, this is a true testament of what consistency, determination, and just hard work looks like, right? Just keep pushing through. There are going to be bad days. There are going to be good days. As you said, failure is constant. Successes are constant, but it's really what you make of it. So keep going, keep pushing, but most importantly, keep talking, GP. Until next time, let's chat, GP.